Let's cross now live to Ian Reifowitz, a professor of historical studies at the State University of New York. Ian, thank you very much for being with us here on France 24. We've heard from the two apparent winners here, Trump and Sanders. What did you make of their speeches?
Well, they are the two winners. Their speeches were pretty much what one would expect, having been listening to both of them for the past few weeks and few months. Senator Sanders took the opportunity to give his overall thesis, if you would, on why he is running, and that's to bring revolutionary change to the country, to address the issues of economic inequality. Donald Trump gave you his reasons for running, which are simple enough to put on the front of a red hat, of course, as anybody who's been watching him knows, and that is to make America great again and to win and give us all so much winning that we won't know what to do with it. One is an ideological pitch, the other is a very personal pitch. And they are the two winners, but there are some losers tonight. The biggest loser, I think, is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio came out of Iowa looking very strong, running a strong third right behind Donald Trump, and his goal for tonight was to knock out everybody else from the race other than Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, who were the other two who had finished ahead of him in Iowa. Marco Rubio had a very bad night Saturday night in the debate in New Hampshire, where Chris Christie really exposed him, perhaps as the emperor with no clothes, somebody who really can't respond under pressure. And we see that tonight. Marco Rubio, granted, as you said, only about 51 or 52% of the votes are in, but Marco Rubio is running not third, not second, which was his initial prediction that he would run a strong second to Donald Trump, but in fact, fifth. His hope was to run ahead of everybody except for Trump and maybe for Cruz and beat everybody else in the so-called establishment lane. Well, he's behind Jeb Bush, who was left for dead a couple of weeks ago, and he's behind John Kasich, who gave a big speech just a couple of minutes ago, a rousing speech where he staked his claim to say that he, rather than Marco Rubio, is really the establishment candidate, the quote-unquote moderate candidate. So it was a night where Marco Rubio hoped to brush aside the other establishment candidates, and what we saw from the Republicans is that that's not going to happen. The establishment race is wide open, and it's not going to end at least until March. And that's something that Marco Rubio really desperately wanted to avoid. That's why I would consider him the big loser of the night.
But Ian, what about the Democrats? We heard there from Hillary Clinton, who did really well in the Iowa caucus. What can we expect from her now?
Well, she's still the front runner because what happened tonight, although it was a very, very strong showing by Bernie Sanders, I think a bit stronger than most people expected. It looks like he's going to win by 20 points or maybe a bit more than that. This was still a state he was expected to win and win at least by 10. Maybe even 15, but he definitely exceeded expectations. I think what Bernie Sanders showed tonight is that he is a formidable candidate. He is going to make this a difficult race for Hillary Clinton to win, but he hasn't yet taken away from Hillary Clinton her status as the front runner in this race. In order for him to do that, he has to win a state that she is expected to win. He has to win a state where, unlike New Hampshire and unlike Iowa, the Democratic electorate includes more than 1 or 2 or 3% of non-white voters. Iowa and New Hampshire, along with Vermont, which is Sanders' home state, are three of the whitest states in the country in terms of the Democratic electorate. South Carolina, which all the candidates have mentioned, is coming up. That is one of the electorates where the Democratic electorate has a significant African-American population, followed by Nevada, which has a significant Latino population. If Bernie Sanders can run reasonably well in South Carolina, maybe hold Hillary Clinton to a 10-point win, maybe even get within a couple of points of winning in Nevada, then he's even a more formidable candidate. If he can win Nevada, well, then maybe he becomes the co-front runner with Hillary Clinton. You need a surprise in order to knock somebody out of the front runner status. We haven't had any big surprises yet, which is why Hillary Clinton is still the front runner. But Bernie Sanders is much stronger than I think a lot of people expected him to be, certainly a couple of weeks ago.
And Ian, just very, very quickly, why does all this matter? Why is New Hampshire so important on the road to the White House?
Well, unlike Iowa, it's a wide open state primary rather than a caucus. So it's a state where anybody can come in and vote. It's much more like the contests that are going to happen in all of the other states. In some ways, Iowa is an outlier. But we don't want to overestimate New Hampshire's importance either, for some of the reasons that I've been talking about, especially on the Democratic side. It is not especially representative demographically of the rest of the country. On the Republican side, the Republican electorate is largely white in general, so New Hampshire is probably more predictive of the rest of the country. We won't really know where Donald Trump stands, however, until he can win a race where he is one of 2 or maybe 3 candidates. As long as there are 5 or 6 others in the field, we're really still almost talking about the preseason rather than a big game match. When a big game match and Donald Trump can win it against Trump versus just Cruz, or just Cruz and Rubio, or just Rubio and Kasich, then we'll really know where Donald Trump stands.
Okay, Ian, thank you very much for that update there from the State University of New York.